Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Paranormal, the New Normal. I'm your host, as always, Jeremy, here trying to make the world seem a little more normal. Does it ever happen? We just learned by this point, no. I don't know why I still freaking ask it, but I do. It's the thing. But of course, we have another great guest joining us today to try to help us delve into some of life's funner points, which these days we all need those. I'm being joined today by Bee Doyle, evolutionary astrologer and intuitive healer. Welcome, Bee. How's it going today?
Hey, Jeremy. It is going amazing. I'm super excited. I can't wait to have a lovely conversation.
Indeed, and me as well. Especially after reading over your profile, which thank you for your service first and foremost, because I have to say that. But because those who don't know, B is a veteran, so I will put it out there first and foremost. But besides that, what made you get into the spiritual life?
Well, not a quick answer here. It was a long journey after I got out of the service and really came home from a tough deployment in Afghanistan. I was in a bad way, struggling with a lot of mental health challenges, alcohol abuse, self-sabotaging behaviors, and it came to a certain point where there was truly times where I just wasn't sure I really wanted to even live on this planet anymore. And I ended up getting pregnant with my son, and he was essentially the catalyst to what I call a spiritual awakening. And part of that process was an understanding that, in a way, I essentially signed up for every experience that I had gone through up until that point. And for me, it was about breaking ancestral chains, breaking ancestral patterns. My grandfather was a prisoner of war in World War II, came home with horrific PTSD and some of the same issues that I had, the alcohol abuse. And I never actually got to meet him. He was deceased before I was born, but it was truly this realization that, my soul came in to complete the work that he was not able to. And it led into this huge spiritual awakening where I found deep resonance with astrology and just really learning to work with my gifts and my intuition. So, yeah, thankful for my son. He was the catalyst, and we chose each other on some weird level.
It's. I've actually had some parenting slash baby experts on here that are in the paranormal field, and we apparently do choose our children. Our children do choose their mothers before birth. It's it. I can't explain it. It's somewhere on the spiritual plane, but it works. And I mean, they connect somehow beforehand. I mean, as I told you before we went live, my audience knows we have a 1 year old, and seems like she was destined to be our baby before she was even. She fits into our circus of a family. But but yeah, I mean, they do choose their mothers, and I think the mothers have some say in it too, and maybe a not knowing sense, but they kind of do it in their, I guess, kind of like an alternate dimension almost, like
Yeah,
maybe maybe while sleeping and whatnot. I I
I
don't. I mean, it's not something I ever could understand, but
yeah.
it's
I don't know. It's one of those things. It's just like I know. Like I don't know how I know, but I know this to be true. It's not a belief, it's like a knowing. And I would love to kind of get the recap of how that meeting went in terms of like when I was choosing the path that I was on, because it hasn't been an easy journey, but it's like, well, I do know. I know I chose it, and my son chose this too, and we're all sort of like, I call it like my soul tribe, somewhere in the
definitely.
ether. So,
Well, yeah, I had Claudia Rankenhouse on. She's a dream birth imagery master, and according to the work she does, you can actually talk to your babies while they're still in the womb,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's it's trippy. It's trippy stuff. But I had a full conversation with her, and I still was like at the end of it, like I'm confused. But it's yeah, we didn't get a chance to work with her and do it before our baby was born because that was when my wife was still pregnant. I wanted to, just didn't timing didn't work out. But it's but enough about that. Let's get on to you because I'm dying to know more. So
Yeah.
you told me, well, previously that you have had these experiences, and did one of these experiences like really open your door to the spiritual? Was there like a defining experience that really like started it all?
Yeah, I mean, one experience that really jumps out to me is when I was sort of in the process of what I consider my spiritual awakening. I was like grasping at straws, it was like I was like a frantic squirrel kind of trying to resource anything that it was like make this all make sense. And to be clear, I always felt from a very young age that perhaps I had some sort of gifting or like intuitive abilities, but I just wasn't in an environment that I was able to really work with those gifts. I was always the kid that was too much and too loud and too this. So, I like a lot of people, I shrank to fit what society wanted me to be. And so it was really for me a process of like reawakening. And I was having this experience where I was listening to a podcast. I don't remember exactly which one, something in the spiritual realm, and I got a clear vision, clear as day, of this beautiful woman, red hair, green eyes. And I was like, I think this is the woman who's talking. I had never seen the woman before who was on the podcast. And sure enough, I looked it up and it was exactly her. An exact image of her was in my brain. And I was just like, wow, I wonder if this is normal. Like what is this? So that was really the first thing that I can recall that sort of brought me back into like remembrance of, I use the terminology intuition. I think that was just a deep, like intuitive knowing, but it's like, okay, this gift that's always been there. And call it a gift, yes, but really the gift is choosing to work with it, because I think that we all have abilities. Maybe the paranormal is actually really the normal if we choose to look at it that way.
She brought it back. She brought it back. But yeah, that's insane. I mean, I've listened to so many podcasts. I'd never been able to like just. I never had a vision like that. That's insane. That is insane. That really is. So actually, I mean, if I was you, I would have been reaching out to that podcast. So I was like, what just happened to me? Like, why am I seeing you when I'm listening to you like now? I'm guessing you weren't watching like a video rating. You were listening like on a Spotify or a streamer of some kind.
Yeah, it
So
was just
it was
audio.
audio. I'm guessing it was audio only, and like the fact that you could see her perfectly is insane. That's wow. So, so and that's when you realized in your life that there's something more you're meant for. I'm guessing that's when that like you had that light bulb moment where it's like, maybe I'm meant for more than just this normal day to day life.
Yeah, that was certainly a pivotal point where it was sort of like, okay, you know, not everybody chooses to work with this, right? This is something that's been given to me, and the fact that I felt from a young age that somehow I was different. I've always sort of felt almost like an alien in this world. I remember being like 6 or 7 years old and looking in the mirror and just repeating over and over, who am I? Who am I? Like it was almost this knowing of like, I came in from somewhere else. And so that experience really opened me up to, well, I'm not exactly at the time, like, I don't exactly know what this was, but I think there's more to it. And I want to really learn how to cultivate this and work with it on a deeper level. And so, I again was still in that phase of like grasping at any kind of resource, like, what is this? And it really led me into astrology as one of the main intuitive tools that I use, because I absolutely love the way I read astrology as evolutionary astrology, kind of looking at everyone as a soul on a journey, an evolutionary journey. And so being able to understand the symbolism of astrology combined with intuition has been incredibly powerful. I'll read for people and they're like, they almost think it's like a psychic reading, and it's like, no, it's just, symbolism and intuition, and here we are. But it's amazing what, you can bring to people's awareness through that.
It is, and astrology charts are a whole other thing we're going to get to in a minute. But I got to ask, because the way you were just talking about the way the mirror thing when you were a kid, have you ever looked into star seeds?
Yes, absolutely. One of my first mentors, actually, my astrology mentor, she read my chart, of course, and we had many follow up conversations about this, but she felt very strongly that I was from the Pleiades. And so, I did some research along the way regarding that, and it definitely resonates.
No,
Definitely resonates.
that's a Palladian. That's awesome. Yeah, they are they are very instrumental in the human race. So that's and it's a common star seed thing. Palladians are very common for star seeds.
Hmm.
I apparently have a alternate me that's an Arcturian. I can't
Okay.
really explain how two of us exist at once, but I've been told that, so I kind of just go with it. But
Sounds like we need to look at your chart, Jeremy.
I've had it looked at and that didn't come up actually. But I mean, every astrologer reads things differently, so who knows? That's they weren't an evolutionary astrologer. I'll tell you that much. The person who didn't, 'cause I had my chart read like live on the show actually. Like they actually did like half the show. They did my chart and it, but they were not an evolutionary astrologer, so I don't know. Maybe that just wasn't their focus. They got
Yeah.
everything else. They got everything else damn right though. So I mean, I'm who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? They did everything else damn correct. I was like literally sitting there mystified, like how do they know all this?
I
But
know. It's
but
amazing.
but yeah, astrology charts and psychic readings, while similar, are not the same thing. 100% correct on that. Um, so for my audience, because it's been a minute since I had an evolutionary astrologer on, why don't you remind them, well, in your words, exactly what an evolutionary astrologer is and why it differs from the rest?
Absolutely. So, evolutionary astrology is a newer form of astrology, right? There's ancient astrology, Hellenistic astrology, but we didn't really start hearing about evolutionary astrology until the late 60s. So I say new ish. But we're operating on this understanding that we're all souls coming in truly on an evolutionary journey. So again, going back to that soul tribe, and we pick our circumstances. It is for a purpose. It is for, so all the shit and the trauma that you've been through, it's not for nothing. Your soul's here trying to learn certain lessons to grow and evolve. And we look at a point in the chart, which is actually a point in the sky called the south node, and it's the south node of the moon. And that can really give us, we're looking at the placement of it, the ruler, various different factors that go into it. And we can get a great idea of sort of the past life circumstances that we're trying to balance out. It's not about running away from, it's about learning to integrate, because the south node of the moon is karma. So something about it didn't go 100% well, right? There's something that still needs to be integrated. And so it differs in that way from other types of astrology, with, maybe they don't focus as much on that evolutionary journey. And it's certainly not predictive astrology. I think that's a common misconception. People think all astrology is predictive, and I'm not a
No.
fortune teller. I don't like to say this is what's in your chart, so this is what you're fated to. What we can fairly accurately determine with evolutionary astrology is the questions that will come up in a certain person's life, or choice points that will happen. And, a good evolutionary astrology reading is leaving you feeling empowered. Like you're not a victim to your circumstances. You do have a choice to always, take that higher road, that higher archetype of whatever the circumstances are. So to me, it is very empowering compared to some other types of astrology that, well, this is just it. You've got Saturn in your 12th house. That's me. So you're just doomed to never have happiness in your life. That could be something that like a predictive astrologer might say. And there is certainly a place for predictive astrology. I don't want to, say one is better than the other, but I was just really drawn into this concept of oh, we're here for a purpose, that gave meaning really to my life and in a time when my life felt meaningless. So that's why it's my love language. I love the evolutionary and I love, using it as a tool to sort of get people to see the higher picture, right? That kind of
Uh,
bird's eye view.
Exactly. I mean, and it's and yeah, I mean, every form of astrology has its place in the paranormal world.
Yeah.
There's 35 at least different ways to predict the future, but they all have their place in the paranormal. Each one is unique enough that not everybody needs the same one. People need different ones sometimes. Certain certain fields resonate with certain people. That's just the way it goes. I 100% believe that. I 100% am behind that fact. I mean, it's just there's why say anything is not appropriate in the paranormal world because in this day and age we can use all the tools we could possibly have to figure out what the hell's going to happen in this world.
I know, right? The world is a crazy enough place. It's like we don't need to be disagreeing about which type of astrology is, superior. It's like, hey, some people speak French and some people speak German, but if we're all telling the truth, then it's not wrong, right?
Exactly. I mean, if all things are argued about in this world, that's not I'm not even that's not towards the top of the list anywhere near. But um, so why do you think astrology can tell us things that like traditional therapy and psychiatrists can't tell us? Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I kind of know the answer, but I want to hear your version of it.
I love that question as somebody who literally spent, the hours I spent in traditional therapy probably equated to like years of my life. And my very first astrology reading, I had an amazing reading by a wonderful evolutionary astrologer by the name of Natha Perkins. She later went on to become my mentor, but in that 1 hour reading with her, I felt more seen and more validated than in the years of talk therapy that I did. And, not to poo poo on talk therapy either. It's just, I wasn't ready to continuously show up and talk about my trauma in that way. But in that reading, I just felt seen and validated. It was individualized, it was personalized, it was essentially like looking at a blueprint of my soul because that's really what it is. And you just don't get that right in a traditional talk therapy session. They're sort of using blanket techniques and one size fits all approach in many regards, right? But this is so individualized. It's like, okay, let's really look at you and who you are on a soul level and look into why you actually experienced the trauma the way you did. And so it was incredibly empowering just to be validated and be seen in that space. And so, there's certainly a place for talk therapy. I don't want to say that there's not. And in fact, I think there are some cutting edge psychiatrists and therapists who incorporate astrology, which I think is amazing. Um,
Yes.
but it's just empowering to be able to look at your own map and be like, oh, yeah, yeah, that's me. Hit the nail on the head. And well, now what? Now, how do we learn to kind of really integrate and work with that? So, very empowering.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, that's the main problem with traditional therapy is they only know what you tell them. And
Mm.
I mean, I for one am not going to sit there and just list off everything I think is wrong with me in one session. Like, no, it's not the. And I don't even know everything that might be wrong with me. Who the hell knows? I mean, we don't even know our full. Nobody knows their full selves. I will say that right now. Nobody knows their true selves fully,
Right.
because unless you have worked for years with somebody who's a clairvoyant, a Reiki master, or an astrologist, even, like there are so many things about ourselves that are locked in our brain that we never could find out unless we have somebody unlock it. And
Mhm.
even then, there's still parts they can't unlock. I mean, we only use like 10-15% of our brain, so who
Yeah,
know who knows what secrets be held. But
exactly.
traditional therapy just doesn't, and they follow a textbook. They follow a damn textbook they learned in college, and they use the same process in pretty much everybody. I mean, I'm not gonna put them down because there are. I mean, I'll put down traditional talk therapy all day, but there are not. There are some good ones out there. There are some good therapists out there who try new techniques and who especially like you said, the ones that work in the paranormal, the ones who work with the paranormal, but they're also not traditional in my mind. They're new. They're a new generation of therapists that are willing to open other doors and see what's behind that door, and then
Mm,
from there, it's who knows. I mean, it could lead to a lot more things. I mean, if it brings back that whole debate of why we need Eastern medicine and philosophy in the West, because in the East they've been doing this for decades and centuries. Like they've been doing it for so long that it's just natural at this point. In the
yeah.
West, they just want to collect your freaking money off from your insurance. That's all they care about.
Absolutely. And I've seen that from both sides. I'm also a nurse practitioner, and I work currently in like the psychedelic space with that nurse practicing. But yeah, I've seen that from both sides, and it leaves a lot to be desired, right? When we're sort of using that one size fits all approach and these blanket, like, this is what the textbook says and the DSM-5, and even like the mere thing of like labeling people with a diagnosis, I think is so detrimental, right? Because we walk around and we embody this. I am depressed. It's like, no, you're not depressed. You might have depression, but that's not who you are. So there's so much
Yeah,
to be wired from it.
I feel like depression and anxiety are two words that they throw everybody into. No,
Mhm.
and it's a blanket term for everything nowadays, and just it's not the case.
Right.
Even under they're going with depression alone. There are multiple levels of depression. There's imaginative depression that people have that they think they're depressed because they don't have what they see other people having, and that depresses them. I mean, sorry, that's not real depression. And
Right.
then it goes all the way to the other side where there really are people with horrible depression, and it doesn't stem from any outside source. It's just there, and they don't know how to stop it.
Yeah.
That's real depression.
Yeah.
Depression because you don't have what your neighbor has is not real depression. That's just somebody who thinks they need these little happy pills to make them feel better. And I mean, those are just a placebo effect anyway. Don't even get me started on that down that rabbit hole. But it's
Mhm.
this is why traditional therapy doesn't work because they want to hear you cry for an hour so they can collect the money, and they just want to feed you pills to get their bonuses from the pharmaceutical companies. That's all they want, at least
Yeah.
most of them.
And that's such the Western mindset, right? It's like I want a pill to fix all of this. And it's like the beauty of astrology and looking at someone's chart is we can actually dive deep and say, maybe shed a lot more insight into why somebody feels that way. Maybe you're like me and you do have Saturn in the 12th house, and Saturn is restriction, Saturn is blockages, and there's just I've talked to other people with similar placements, and it's like there's just a heaviness to people like us. And well, there's nothing wrong with us. We chose that, right? And so looking at any kind of problem like that through the lens of astrology, and it's not this thing to let me validate and make me feel better about myself. It's to bring awareness so that we can then consciously work with the blind spots and the shadow spots, and those things that kind of linger below in the subconscious, and really work with it and transmute it, right? So that we can get out of these sticky spots and find that bigger purpose and meaning in life. And that's a lot more than Prozac is going to do for you.
Oh God, as my listeners know, I have a huge, huge grudge against the medicinal world. Really is, but uh, and apparently one of our guests is saying you will draw to you the person that has the same issues to heal that you have, so that it improves both. Which
Mm,
in the paranormal world is actually very true. You'll find someone who had the same issues you did or still does,
mhm.
and I mean, it's better to go through things with somebody than to go through things alone. Always, always in this world.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a certain resonance, right? And that could also go back to like the soul tribe thing. If I'm attracting somebody who's gone through similar circumstances, it's for a purpose, right? We have that resonance with each other. And, that can sometimes be a slippery slope. That's why for healers and intuitives, it's so important that energetic protection, right? Because sometimes it's like, oh, we wanted to kind of shed all of that, so not attracting it back into our field is also very, very
Oh
important. But
God, God, yes. I mean, even for paranormal podcasters, because trust me, we attract things, and I don't know why. We attract things just talking about this stuff, and it makes life so much fun sometimes when you attract things. And you're just like, why?
Hmm. And
But
that's why, when you're especially working in like non-ordinary states of consciousness, even if you're working in the realm of like plant medicine, things like that, it's like these are not things to be taken lightly. None of this, even the astrology, like yes, it's a tool, but you can open up profound doors through this. So it's not something that we should step into if we're not ready to really fully
well,
integrate and heal and work with.
a tool is only a tool if used properly. Otherwise, it's just so. Otherwise, it's a weapon. But
Yeah.
basically, so yeah, I mean, 100%. No, you should never try to take on any aspect of the paranormal world unless you're prepared for what might happen. If you do,
Hmm.
same as all those kids in the 70s and 80s that played with Ouija boards and brought things into this world that we still have to deal with. So, yeah,
Yes.
horror movies didn't get that wrong, folks. Horror movies got that kind of right. Uh, but and you talked earlier about ancestral trauma, and I mean, I've had a lot of people on the show talk about past life regressions, and that's I mean that's huge. It's past life regression is huge because a lot of us are just suffering from ancestral things and we don't realize it. We think it's us. No, it could be a curse your family got generations ago that's stuck on you. It could just be something one of your family members did that kind of haunts your family's spirits until now. And there's so many different scenarios I've heard about where it could be something that someone did back in the 1200s that still just follows your family lineage down to the current day. So
Yes.
the reason I'm saying this though, doesn't ask is, do you work with past lives at all? Or I mean, I know astrology sometimes crosses over that, but do you look into past lives at all?
Absolutely. That's where I start actually when I begin an astrology reading, because how do we have an awareness of where we're at without kind of looking back through history, right? Isn't that why we study history in school, even though half of what we study is bullshit? But we get the point,
Yeah.
right? We have to understand where we're coming from. And I also work in the realm of the energy field, so past life retrievals or soul retrievals, because this idea that anytime there's been wounding to us, whether in the current life or the past life, the soul gets fragmented in a way. And so we can actually go back through timelines and bring back those pieces to fully integrate and allow someone that deeper level of healing. But it's absolutely what I start with in the astrology reading. Like, this is kind of what we're looking at. And also it's sort of a default patterning, right? If this is where we came from in a past life, that's familiar. So that's probably where we go, especially when we're under stress. And
Yep.
99.9% of the time people are like, yep, that's it. That's my default mode. And it's like, well, that's familiar to your soul. That's familiar. So it is so relevant and so valid for people on the healing journey. We have to look back and figure out what we need to integrate. What karma are we trying to sort out? So I
I
love
I fully feel like one of my past lives was a town drunk, but that's me. um, and actually I did have a I had a oh I didn't have a full past life reading done, but I did have someone look into a few past lives for me, and I think they did like 5 or 6 actually, and they were interesting. They were very interesting. Apparently, my wife was in like 3 of them, so that's a cool part. But
interesting.
apparently, we're destined to meet each other in most lives. So
Yeah.
who know? Who knew? But it's it. I mean, it's just the fact that we can go back generations and generations, back to the beginning. I mean, back to pre-flood times, even in past lives, is insane. Or even
Yes.
on other, even past, even back to other planets before this planet was even civilized or settled, I should say, not civilized, because this planet still isn't civilized for God's sake. But
Yeah, it's like, we're multidimensional beings. So to think that every past life was lived on planet Earth would be kind of silly if you think about it. And yeah, I mean, this is all very real in my mind. It's like you can trace back literal, like energetic cords in some circumstances. And it's like you cut the energetic cord. Some people call it psychic surgery, whatever. I just work with it by literally like cutting it away. And suddenly people are like, oh my God, I feel 1,000 times lighter. Like I'm not carrying this around anymore. And it's like, it was never yours to carry. And it's also a conscious choice of giving yourself permission to rewrite the contracts, whatever it was. Like maybe, somewhere along the line, you did engage in some kind of verbal agreement, like, I'm always going to make this person happy. And then you find yourself in this pattern of getting in relationships and you feel this urge, like you're supposed to be making somebody else happy. And it's like, nope, we can rewrite that story right now.
Yeah, I mean, we all in our past lives we all made deals with devils at some point or another, and that's basically the best way to put it. We all made deals, some kind of demonic deal, at some point in our history, and whether it's with an actual demon or with some other type of creature, because there's plenty of them out there. But
Mhm.
especially if we're going to other dimensions, there's a lot of different creatures out there that like to mess with humans. So, which why wouldn't they? Because humans are easy, they're gullible. But
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's where that protection comes in so strong, always asking that it only be from the highest and greatest good, right?
which I mean, you mentioned you found some patterns in your own ancestral lineage, but
Mm.
what ones shocked you the most? Like, what were the ones that you like couldn't believe? Because I mean, there's always some that are common that like a lot of people have, and then there's always the ones that like are unique, and it's like what? like,
Yeah. I mean, the war thing was pretty interesting because I knew, of course, about my grandfather and his story, but then I did some deeper like past life regression work, and all of my past lives that came up in this regression were themes of war. There was like one where I was the woman and my young son and husband went off to war and never returned. And then there was a more recent past life of myself as I was a man named Jim, interestingly enough, and it was like Vietnam era, and I was a strong like Vietnam protester. So still kind of like that theme of war there. And then, fast forward to this lifetime and it's like, why why did I have that call when I was 18 years old to join the military, right? That's not something everybody in this country does, but it was like I said, a calling. Like I couldn't have ignored it, I think, if I tried. It was like, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it wasn't until many years later that I put the pieces together and understood why. But yeah, those were more of the surprising ones, that it's always been about these themes of war. And also I did some work in a plant medicine journey, and a big theme came up of I was having so much physical pain, like back pain. It was something I struggled with for a long time. And what came out in this journey was that pain was all of this calcified, like inability for the feminine lineage in my bloodline to access joy. So it was like, oh, that's another curse I'm here to break, is that the women in my family have never been able to really access a true level of joy. And so it was like this shedding process that I had to go through to kind of, it was like calcified in my kidneys. Um, and in the normal world, that might sound strange, but if you know, you know. So it was sort of like this process of having to rid myself of that and all the energetic cords attached with that. And because somewhere along the line, it was, that was part of my curse as well. Like, okay, but I'm here to break that. So I have to give myself permission to release those chains. And yeah, something I think too we don't talk about when we think of like the ancestral trauma and the energetic cords is also, it's not all bad, right? It's not all curses. If our ancestors gave us these things to work with, then it would be safe to assume they also gave us a lot of gifts. Humanity has
yes,
survived, right? So tapping into not just healing the curses, but using the gifts as well that we've been given. So I always like to make that point when talking about the ancestral work.
I mean, it's true. I mean, our ancestors could give us gifts too. I mean,
Hmm.
some of us could be good with money because it runs in our ancestral line to be very good with money.
Hmm.
I didn't inherit that. I wish I did, but I mean, it's some of us may be that lucky. But, I mean, that's just an example. There could be so many other good things. There, you could be a skilled doctor in your ancestral line, and all your ancestors were skilled doctors. I mean,
Hmm.
be nice to have that one too. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways that ancestral lineage can go. It can go. There's always the yin and the yang. There's always going to be good with the bad. Your ancestral line could make you the meanest drunk in the world, but you could be the best doctor in the world at the same time. I mean,
Absolutely.
just it's a balance. It's about everything in this world is a balance.
Hmm.
And but you keep bringing up plant medicine. I'm dying to hear what you actually worked with because I've talked to a lot of plant medicine practitioners, and I am somewhat versed in it. I have an interview right after. I have an interview right after this with an iboga specialist.
Oh,
So
wow, that's been coming up for me too. I haven't gotten to experience that yet, but primarily in my journey, it started. I know most people don't consider cannabis a plant medicine, but I was working with it in
it is.
a conscious way, like with deep, like shamanic breath work, and so that sort of opened the gateway. And I, in that regard, with the intent and intention behind it, I do consider it a plant medicine, and that led into deeper journeys with psilocybin and also ayahuasca. But
Hmm.
all profound, of course, it's not for everybody, but anytime I think we can really enter into those non ordinary states of consciousness, we're able to break through more shit, right? Because so much is like, it is just underneath the surface of that subconscious. And I just need something to propel me out of my normal thinking, everyday logical mind. And some of the most profound healing, the most profound insights, actually, the basically full manuscript for the book I'm writing right now came through a plant medicine journey. And so it's just been such an integral part of my healing journey. And again, not for everybody. But if you're called to it, there's certainly a reason as well.
Yeah, I mean, I plant medicine has done a lot of good for a lot of people. It's something I would have just and like shook my head at years ago, but I've talked to so many people that work with it. And I mean, it's huge in every country except the United States. It's huge. And in Africa and South America and Australia, it's huge. I mean, there are resorts for people who want to go have plant medicine treatments done for a week or 2 weeks at a time and awaken parts of themselves. Like it's, I mean, I would love to do it. It ain't gonna happen anytime soon. I got a family to take care of, but eventually, in my older days, maybe I will go try to open my mind a little bit once my kids are all teenagers and I can actually get away. But
Absolutely.
it's definitely an experience I would love to have because I mean I've heard so many great things about how it awakens, how it makes you a new person after you're done, and I've heard the process isn't exactly the funnest, but I mean it's a lot of disposing of bodily fluids from what I hear, and
Yeah.
that's the part that doesn't sound fun. But for the outcome, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. But
Absolutely. And like you spoke to, these are things that have been around for ages, right? Our ancestors worked with these medicines, and it's all about intent and intention, right? It's like there's a big difference between just using it to sort of escape normal reality, because it all comes, with the meaning that you really make from these experiences and how you integrate it and actually make the shifts in your life, right? Not just doing it to have an experience, but actually using it to sort of cross the veil, so to speak, and okay, what are the messages I need? And so it can be a really beautiful thing, but again, not
I
everybody's to it in this lifetime.
I mean I've said it before in the show, I'll say it again. I mean marijuana. There's a big difference between a marijuana user who just wants to go smoke a J and watch a scary movie one or two. Like there's a big difference between that and someone who's actually using it. A mother who wants to use it to go to distress when she gets a few minutes away from her kids,
Mhm.
or a veteran who uses it for pain relief and needs to just go out and smoke for 5 minutes so they can actually not be in pain for half a day. Like
Mhm.
it's a big difference between using it for leisure and using it because you actually need it for medicinal purposes, whether they be mental, emotional, or physical. But And there's a reason it's becoming legal in a lot of states in the United States, and that's basically on the way to becoming federally legal, I believe. Because I
Mhm.
mean, one, they see the money they're making off it in these states, and they're like, okay, let's do this as a government.
Yeah,
Let's have these big farms and make profit off it. But and everybody's used. They've been using it for ancient civilizations used it all the time. I mean,
absolutely.
it's no different than Native Americans using peyote in the Southwest to like open their minds. It's no different. It's
Right.
just you just gotta know what you gotta know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, find someone who does know what they're doing and learn some things. Because if
Yeah.
don't go to your local dispensary, pick up the highest freaking strain you can, and think you're gonna be able to handle it the first time, and that's gonna help you solve everything. No, it's most likely gonna just make you feel like you're losing your mind. But
Yeah. And the control of it too, right? It's like the quote, like war on drugs or whatever. And that was just another form of control, because it's like we understand, people that have worked deeply with these medicines understand that the healing potential is incredible. Physical ailments, mental ailments, opioid addiction. I'm sure your ibogaine person will really speak to that. But I think the recovery rate for somebody in active opioid addiction that does ibogaine once is like 90%. That's insane, right? That's way higher than like any Suboxone or methadone. And it's like they don't want us to have access to this. The powers that be, right? Because then there'd be less reliance on pharmaceutical drugs. And so it's just another thing that's fallen into the wrong hands, because it's fucking plants, right? Like how can we like regulate a plant and say a plant is illegal? It's crazy. But yeah.
I mean, it's also because they want to use the non-smokable part of it for production of things. That they want to use the hemp for production of things. So that's a whole nother aspect of it. That's why it was illegal for so long. I mean, hell, George Washington grew freaking marijuana for God's sake. So you're gonna tell me it's really wrong? The guy who created our country used it, but it's it's a whole that's a whole conversation I could spend hours talking about because it's funny because I was brought up to think it was evil. I was brought up to think it was the devil's drug and that I shouldn't touch it. And for 19 years, that worked on me. And then a woman led my way to freedom. But that's a whole nother story. But uh, sometimes women open up things. What can I say? But so we talked about it a little bit when we were talking about ancestral, how people feel like they're entitled to help other people sometimes throughout generations. Why is it? Why is that wrong? Why should people not be scared to help themselves? Like, I mean, I had to learn this the hard way years ago. I was like that. I was taken advantage of by gold digger to gold digger because I emptied my bank account more times than I can count because I was tricked into it by people, whoever I was dating at that moment, whoever I happened to be dating at that moment. They somehow tricked me and emptied my bank account out over time. But eventually I had to learn that myself, I need to not just worry about me. And it's not wrong to worry about me exclusively and not focus on other people.
Mhm.
So, why do people have such a problem with doing that? Why people have such a problem with being selfish, for lack of a better word, just selfish for a few days, a month or two?
Yeah, yeah. I call it spiritual selfishness, and it's a huge part of the work I'm here to do. You know, the way I have been framing it is healing is, it's not just about bettering yourself, right? It's not just this thing that we do for self improvement. It's actually a societal responsibility, in my opinion, because it's not hard to look around the world right now and see a lot of unhealed people who are running around making choices, making decisions, and they have not, I can't say this for certain. I've never spoken to them one on one, but it would appear on the outside that they haven't done a whole lot of shadow work. And like you mentioned earlier, everything's this polarity, right? It's about the light and the darkness. And when we don't look at those dark, shadowy parts of us, things can go unchecked, right? We're out here running around with egos gone crazy, and it's madness. So healing is not selfish. It is a social responsibility. You need to heal yourself so that you can really be the person that the world needs you to be, so that you can honor the gifts that you came in to do. Because, again, going back to the soul thing, we all chose to be here in this crazy world at this exact time. So it is for a purpose. Especially if you're called to the helping professions, the healing professions, we all have a path, but it is a responsibility to heal yourself so that you can bring forth your gifts, that you are meant to be spreading this love and light. Because yes, there's darkness, yes, there's polarity, but I truly believe that love is the way, love is truth. And when we can all learn to access that in ourselves, it has this ripple effect, right? That's how we change the world. That's how we stop the endless suffering right now. That's how we stop the madness. So it's not selfish. It's selfish not to do it, because then you're withholding something from the world that the world needs. And nobody likes to put together that 1,000-piece puzzle and there's a piece missing. You're like, what? This is madness.
Exactly. I mean, how can you expect to heal others if you haven't healed yourself? That's the
Mhm.
golden line right there. Like how you can't. I mean, you can't be a good parent and help your kids function appropriately in society if you can't function appropriately in society, which we see that every. Trust me, I got kids in school. I see
Mhm.
that every day of my life when the kids at these that I mean the kids they actually bring to my house aren't that bad, but the kids I hear about at the school that they deal with are I'm like, what is wrong with the parents that
I
let their kids act like this? Like it's the parents, it's not the
Mhm.
kids, it's I mean maybe sometimes it's the kids. It's there's exceptions to every rule, but 99% of the time it's the parents, and there's something wrong with the parents if they think that's okay for them to raise their kids to go act that way in the world, which it's the biggest problem in society today is a generation of people that really shouldn't have been parents yet became parents too young. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. It really is because I mean, it's a whole sociological thing where I literally was having a discussion with the manager at my job the other day where it's like, because we have kids the same age ish. And it's like, in our generation, when we were kids, it was all about having a significant other, a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. And it was all about that. It was all about, I don't want to be a virgin anymore. Those were my teenage years. That's what it was like for everybody in my teenage years. These days, kids don't seem interested in it. They don't seem
Right.
to care about having a boyfriend, girlfriend, or about anything overly sexual. I mean, they're kids. Their kids are gonna be kids, but it seems like they are learning from their parents and grandparents' mistakes. Like they're learning, like, okay, they had kids young. Maybe I should be more careful and not do stupid shit. And
Yeah.
they're avoiding relationships because of this, which is, as a parent, not a bad thing. I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll
and
take. I'll.
there's definitely certain like astrological influences that sort of play into that. Like yes, we all have our personal lessons that we're here to learn and evolve, but also a lot of it is generational. We look at like the planet Pluto as one of the generational planets, and so we look at these different generations, and it's like you can kind of see the different themes and the different lessons that they're here to learn, and it's very fascinating through that lens as well. But absolutely, I'm like these parents that, it's like that excuse, we're doing the best we can. It doesn't land the same way that it used
I,
to. As consciousness has expanded so much, it's like, are you doing the
I'm
best you
exactly. It's like, are you really? I mean, I'm not. I'm also not going to solely waste the last thing I'm saying this really, but I'm not going to solely base it on the parents either. It's outside influences as well. I fully think you shouldn't be allowed to go on YouTube until you're 18 or older, and I fully think you shouldn't be allowed to play Roblox at all. It should just be banned from society. Like it's destroying kids. It's destroying kids. I can witness it all the time. It's
I know. The struggle is real. I've got 10-year-old twins and a 5-year-old, and it's like the 5-year-old runs around like saying 6, 7, what is this? I don't even understand. This is
I
like
I I yeah, I actually do the 6, 7 thing a lot because my 8-year-old freaking finds it amusing as hell. My 11-year-old is like, ugh. Like he's like dad's doing it. It's not cool anymore. But
yeah, 10-year-old called me cringe. He was like, "It's cringe when adults say it." And I was like, "Oh, cringe. Like I feel like I'm the coolest version of myself I've ever been." But whatever. You're 10, you don't know.
yeah, South Park did such a good job with that whole thing. But Uh, Elaine in the comments actually wanted to ask if you do personal astrology readings. She says she's been working on herself all her life, and she has found herself surrounded by people who have wanted to harm her. She's now 74 and knows she is protected, but apparently that wasn't always the way it was. I'm reading between the lines there, kind of.
Absolutely. I do one-on-one readings. You can find me at doublelibraastrology.com, and I'm also on Instagram, Double Libra Coaching. So I would love to connect. Absolutely.
Uh, well, there you go. Go ahead and reach out, Elaine. I'm sure you
Yes, please
get
do.
any answers you need there. But we are kind of getting to the end of this, so I did want to give you a chance to talk about your book you're writing. I wanted to give you a chance to kind of tell us what you're doing with it and what you hope people get out of it.
Oh, absolutely. So my book is, like I mentioned, it was sort of given to me through one of these non-ordinary states of consciousness. Actually, several years before that, a psychic did tell me that I was an author, and I was like, huh, that's hilarious. But I was given this book, and essentially it is a prescriptive memoir about my journey through trauma and back into the light. And it includes a framework so that it's not just some sort of conceptual thing. It's actually something that other people can embody. And it's designed to really provide hope for anybody who feels like they just don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I expect it to be out by the end of 2026. It is actually in pre-order status right now. So you can go to the Publish Sizer website and look for Keepers of the Light and order your pre-order copy today. So yeah.
Keepers of the Light. It almost sounds like a good fantasy series, but
Maybe,
but
who knows what's possible, right?
it's funny. I've been told by so many psychics that I'm going to write a book one day, and I'm like, you sure you got the right person? I'm like, I'm like, that thought never came to me until you guys started mentioning it, and now all of a sudden, like, it's on my mind. But you gotta, so you have to. That's the point of it. Is some people in life are gonna tell you you're gonna do things, and that's what draws the inspiration. Is just like people saying it so often. It's like, why haven't I done this? And
Yeah.
I still haven't. I haven't. I'm not gonna be starting for years if I do. But it's don't have the time for that. But it's time consuming from what I've been. I mean, podcasting is basically as close as I can get to authoring at this point, and that's time consuming enough. I can't imagine having to write a book. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's an intense journey. It's a calling, but we're infinite beings, so why not, Jeremy? What else is possible?
yeah, eventually someday I'll get there. I have ideas, so we'll get there one day. But and well, actually, one last question before we let you go for today, because you talk a lot on your site about helping women, well, helping women in general, but helping women especially like in midlife crises or women who give up hope because they feel like they got nothing left in life to give, empty nesters, what have you. What do you have to say to those type of women? Like, what's the message that you really want to get across to them?
The message that I want to get across is that there is always hope. Women often come to me in these places of transition, like you mentioned. Midlife to me is just a blanket term for transition, and any crisis is actually just a calling. It's a sign that something's out of alignment, and it is never too late to live your full purpose, to live a fulfilled, beautiful life. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of guidance, a little guiding North Star, and there's always hope. And I have lived through the most hopeless moments for that reason, to be a beacon of hope for others. And that's my mission and my goal.
Yeah, I mean, and trust me, I've been there too for some reasons, and there's always, I mean, not just because it's one of my favorite movies of all time, but there's always a new hope. So, but yeah, I mean, it's people give up too easy in this world. That's my biggest thing. Is I think people give up too easy on what they want to accomplish. They just the second it doesn't work, they are willing to throw it all off the table and just be done with it. Like a kid losing a board game, they just literally clear the table off. But it's you can't do that. You gotta if it looks hopeless, step away and go do something else for a while and come back to it. I mean, it's just it's I don't know. There's so many people to help in this world, but so little time and resources to do it, and that's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Especially with everything else going on in the world that blinds us from what really matters, which is ourselves. The world tries to keep us away from ourselves and tries to make us worry about the whole world as a whole, and you can't do that. I
Yeah.
mean, don't watch the news. That's the biggest advice I give everybody is don't watch the damn news.
I
It's
don't know.
I don't, but certain people in my house like to. But it's draining. It's soul draining. It's mind numbing. It's just horrible. And it's
Yeah.
fake. 99% of it's fake.
Yeah.
It's one side views of what happens in the world. You're not
It's
gonna find real news.
it's fear mongering, right? That's a
Mhm.
form of control. That's how they control us. And it's like, what do we need to be doing is getting back to ourselves, the truth that lives in ourselves, because we all have this intuition that I spoke about early on, right? And that's power. That's how we take our power back, everyone, from these forces that be, right? Is coming back to ourselves, starting to learn to make choices from that true place of nervous system, regulation, clarity, and peace. No fear. No fear.
I mean, yeah, exactly. You need to get above the fear. And yes, they may show you a cute puppy or a cute kid once in a while to kind of just shovel the fear out of your mind for a second, but it's always comes back to it. Oh, here's a puppy that won the cutest puppy in New York award. Oh, but back to the war on the other side of the world. Okay,
Right.
thank you. But yeah, it's this world disappoints me on a daily basis. But I want to thank B for coming on, folks, because it's been a fun conversation,
Yes.
and hopefully we all learned. I learned a lot from it. I hope everybody else did too. I really do.
Yes.
And where can people find you if they want to reach out and either embrace your services or just see what you're about a little bit more?
Yes. Double Libra astrology.com. And on Instagram, I'm Double Libra Coaching. So please do come follow, join the newsletter on my website, and you can stay up to date on the book and all things that I offer. So thank you, Jeremy. This was lovely. I hope that we can have a follow up conversation when the book drops and maybe look at your chart. That would be so fun. So,
I'm always down for some self introspection. Always down for that. And my audience is used to seeing it by now, so yay! But
love it.
actually, I actually have a full psychic reading I did before I went on hiatus about a little over a year ago. Haven't released it yet on my podcast. It was live, but I
Love,
didn't release it on my. It was a live thing, but I didn't release it in my podcast yet because I'm just like, do I need to release this? Like, is there anything in this information? I gotta listen to it again. I'm like, I gotta make sure there's nothing in here I don't want people to hear. But
yeah.
I mean, I don't think there is. But we're dealing with a monster, so it's a whole other thing. But folks, you know where to find Paranormal New Normal. If you don't, shame. It's been scrolling across the bottom of the screen the whole time. You lazy. Read. And for all my listeners, you know as well. If you don't, by now, God, just check the intro. It's our outro. It's all in the outro. But until next time, folks, I should be right back if my next guest does show up. But we will see. If not, I have more interviews coming for you in the next month or so. So talk to everybody then. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye. Thank you all. This was awesome.